I am Pam Roussell. I am the founder and CEO of Purrrfectly Holistic, and I am a holistic health coach for cats. And I specialize in muscle testing and energy work. So I just help educate and empower pet parents, cat parents, how to use more holistic and natural approaches with their cats, whether that be physically, emotionally, spiritually, all that good stuff. So I end up doing a lot of online events and things like that, just connecting and building that community for cat people.
That is amazing. I really love that. I'm a cat parent myself, so I
Yay!
definitely was so happy to hear that you have such a strong push for cats, especially.
Oh, they have my heart, no doubt.
I totally get that. I wanted to ask you, how did you get started in holistic health? Like, what brought you to this process?
Well, I had an injury a long time ago that conventional medicine wasn't healing. And so after being very, very frustrated for many months, I finally had one of those epiphany moments where I was on vacation driving through Chinatown in Vancouver and seeing all of these signs in their market written in Chinese and English side by side. And something in my brain just kind of clicked. And I thought, when I get back home, I'm going to seek out a Chinese doctor and explore Chinese medicine, because the injury that I had in my foot, I was wearing a boot, one of those boot things, for like 3 months and wasn't getting any results whatsoever. It was a little scary at first, going out of your comfort zone. The next step for me was surgery. And I'm like, no. We did surgery on the other foot several years prior, and I will never do that again. So I was desperate. And I think that sadly, that's kind of where we end up a lot of times. We are desperate and we're like, no, there's got to be a better way. Long story short, I found a Chinese doctor who did acupuncture and some Chinese herbal medicine, and I was healed in 8 weeks.
That
like
is
100% healed. I was amazed when she said, you don't need to come back and see me anymore.
Really?
I was kind of shocked. Like, what doctor tells you don't come back?
That definitely is an interesting one.
They don't do that. That was a real eye-opening experience for me. It left me wondering, okay, what else don't I know that I really need to know? And so that just kind of opened a Pandora's box. I started learning about all these other things that have been hidden from me in the health and fitness industry at the time. I was very disappointed that my own industry did not teach us more about real health instead of being in a medical paradigm where it's dis-ease, because that's where we've been as a society for decades and decades and decades. It opened my world to learn about naturopathy and herbal medicine and homeopathy and muscle testing and nutrition, how important the nutrition role plays in our foundational health. What I started learning was applying those to my cat's issues and got phenomenal results.
That's amazing. I love hearing that. I definitely have seen that. There's been a push more lately to start focusing on the alternative medicine, or what we would consider alternative. But
right.
Yeah, it's really questioning those societal norms and really branching out with it. That's something I really love, because I know at Petique we try to stray away from a lot of the norm, like unsustainable living, and we're trying to push that as a big topic. Yeah. And I really love that you're doing that as well.
Well, it's really sad because it's not really alternative in some parts of the world.
Oh yeah, it's just alternative here. That's why I was like alternative.
They've been doing Ayurvedic medicine in India for eons, and they've been doing Chinese medicine for thousands of years, and it's worked. And prior to the Industrial Revolution in the United States, we had a whole medical society that was built on homeopathy. And John D. Rockefeller came in with the petrochemical industry and tried to discredit and wipe out anything natural or holistic because it competed with the petrochemical industry. It led to the creation of the pharmaceutical industrial complex. I think you're seeing a trend in society where people are kind of fed up with that paradigm and they're wanting to go back to what we did hundreds of years ago. So I think that's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see this push for it. I definitely love reading more into it, and especially reading about what you do. It was so intriguing. I loved hearing that. If you could dive in a little bit more on the services you offer. I know you offer a really wide range of services for pet owners and pets, but can you go into a little detail about that?
Yes, I am very fortunate. I have a wonderful team of ladies that work with me that have specific talents that I don't have as much. For myself, I do a lot of energy testing, muscle testing, and tap into the pets as a whole and look at physical, emotional, and spiritual wellness with an optimal cat health analysis. So that's one of the services that I do. And it is a deep dive energetically to identify stressors and imbalances in the body. It incorporates energetic healing with that, as well as recommendations and protocols to find the tools that your pet needs to get back on track. How can we help the body heal itself? My team members, they do Reiki for pets and people. We have Akashic record readings. We have past life healing. We have angel readings. It's very spiritual. It's very emotional. It affects the pets on a physical level as well. It's kind of all incorporating. And animal communication is one of our most popular services as well, because it's so cool to hear what the pets have to say.
How do you know that they are like receptive to it? Is there any key indicators that you can see when interacting with the pets to see how they are receiving the different techniques and processes?
Well, for the energy work, it could be something as subtle as a sigh, releasing stress. It can be seeing them change their behavior from more of an anxious, stressed behavior to calm and relaxed. Maybe they just stopped completely doing what they were doing that was not what you wanted or not beneficial for them. It can be more engagement in terms of a physical level, even just seeing their symptoms disappear. Once we address and find the root cause, their symptoms stop and they heal. It's pretty incredible. So it's a gamut of depending on this type of service that you're looking for.
How long does it typically take to see those results?
From what my clients tell me for the service that I do, they see a change within hours, if not less, on an energetic level, on an emotional level, on a behavior level sometimes. But they may even see changes in their overall physical well-being within a week, 2 weeks. I mean, it just depends on the pet. Every pet's different. Everybody's different, just like us. Just depends on how fast our body responds and can make those changes and turn around.
That's really amazing. I might have to talk to you later. I have a cat who's pretty anxious.
Oh, yes, we deal with anxious pets all the time.
Yes, yeah. I love that. When you're doing these processes as well, do you have a specific feeling that might come over you? Or how do you feel that connection?
I really tap into their energetic field with energy testing or muscle testing. And my primary tool with that is using a pendulum. It's called idiomotor response. So it's a response to a stimulus. So the muscles in my fingers respond to the stimulus of asking a question, and I get yes, no answers. And so I basically go through a checklist, a very long checklist with the work that I do, just asking the body a bunch of questions and identifying stressors and imbalances all throughout their body, down to the cellular level, as well as environmental stressors that we come in contact with, whether they be chemical, food, people, other pets, activities, whatever's stressing them, whatever is causing their body to be out of balance emotionally, physically, or spiritually. There's so many other forms of muscle testing that you can do, but when you do, as long as it takes when I'm working on a client, it's like 30 plus minutes at a time asking questions. So the pendulum is just a lot faster and more efficient than muscle testing because your fingers get tired.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Is there anything you do typically to get prepared for these sessions, like meditation or anything like that?
No, but I kind of have a daily clearing of myself and cutting cords because we come in contact all the time with different vibes and energies around us. Sometimes the vibe and the energy of a pet can come through if my energy is a little low or whatever that day. So every day I go through a process where I cut cords. So it's like envisioning yourself, like if you had cords attached to other energies that I came in contact with that day that were kind of negative or whatever, I envision cutting those cords and asking Archangel Michael come in and pull those cords out by the root. It's an intention. It's a personal clearing, a release of anything negative and no longer serving me for my highest good. And so I release it out there and just keep my own vibe high. Things that we do for ourselves to take care of ourselves, like eating right, getting enough sleep, hydration, exercise. Those are all very important things that I do daily.
Really like the self-care aspect that you're really taking to it.
Yeah.
It's definitely so needed nowadays.
Well, and you can only be a good vessel to help others if you are taking care of yourself first.
I think that really goes back to thinking about airplanes. Like if you've been on an airplane, they tell you to put your mask on before you put on others, because you have to take care of yourself personally before you can keep moving on with to help others. I know that you have had your cats on a holistic diet as well. Is that correct?
We use more of a foundational approach, biologically appropriate diet for cats. You could say holistic in a broad sense of the term, but they eat what we call a biologically appropriate diet, which is raw food or freeze-dried raw that's been rehydrated. So there's minimal processing. And then they like a little bit of canned too. So from time to time, I'll throw in a little bit of canned food just to add a little variety. But we've moved away over the years after learning how to do better nutritionally for cats, because nutrition is such a fundamental part of their health. If you get the foundation wrong, everything else you put on top of that is going to be off. Just like building a house. You got to get the right foundation. When you look at cats who are carnivores, they eat meat. They need a meat-based, fresh diet. You look at what cats would eat in the wild. They don't go to the grocery store and buy dry food. They don't go to the grocery store every week with their little cart and get canned food. They eat prey. They eat muscles, bones, tissues, organs. They eat whatever the stomach contents are, so they might get a little fiber that way from their prey. But that is how we should look at how to appropriately feed our cats, who are their cousins of the cats in the wild. Their biology is the same. Their bodies function the same way. And so when we feed them a species appropriate diet like that, it's incredible to see if you've had a cat with health issues, how those health issues just kind of make a 180 turn. Their coat looks great. Their eyes look great. They are so healthy and vibrant compared to cats who eat a non-species appropriate diet with like dried processed food. It would be comparing us to eating Cheetos every day, 3 meals a day. How healthy would we be?
Oh, I get that. I totally understand.
And when we eat fresh foods, not processed foods, when we're being really mindful of how we eat, what part of the grocery store we shop in the most, it's incredible. Dietitians will tell you, shop the perimeter of the store, not the aisles. You want your fresh foods, you want your vegetables, your fresh meat, because that's going to give you the most available nutrition. And cats are the same way. Think fresh, think meat-based, think hydration. Cats in the wild have a very low thirst drive, so they don't necessarily seek out a lot of water all the time because they get their moisture from their food, from their prey. That's why cats who are on a species appropriate diet don't tend to drink a lot of water, because they're not dehydrated. It doesn't mean you can't add more, or add broth and things like that to make it more nutritious and better, but it's not as needed because they're eating the right diet.
What does your day-to-day look like with feeding your cats? I know you said the raw food. Is there a specific schedule you follow, or is there any specific meats, things like that?
Well, they get 2 meals a day, and then they get a few snacks here and there. Usually they like to have a snack before they go to bed, like freeze-dried treats and things like that. Fortunately, there are great brands out there that make a complete and balanced raw diet or freeze-dried foods for pets, dogs included. It makes it really, really easy. Right now, I'm feeding small batch. They're like little mini sliders that are 1 ounce. So I just defrost a couple of those for their breakfast and for their evening meal, and then I'll crumble some freeze-dried mixed in with some bone broth or some water to rehydrate that and just put it down, and they love it. It's easy. It's easier than people think. I don't defrost a bunch at a time. I just defrost only what's needed for the next meal. It defrosts within 12 hours. One of the things I started doing that makes it easy, they don't want cold food. So I pour hot water over those little 1 ounce patties inside the little container just to kind of warm it up. And then I pour the water out before I put it in their bowls. It just kind of brings it to a room temperature, warms it up a little bit for them.
Sounds really good. They're eating really well.
I do. But you know what? One of my philosophies is you pay now or you pay later. You're either going to pay a little bit more for really good quality food. It goes the same way for humans. We take care of ourselves. We do the right things now, or we end up in a doctor's office with medical problems. And it's the same way with the cats. If we don't do what is right for their species, we're going to end up with obesity. We'll end up with kidney disease. We'll end up with cancer and lymphomas and IBD, all these other illnesses that cats get. When you can trace it back to what are we feeding them foundationally? And that's such a huge part of being proactive in their health.
How would you recommend feeding multiple cats at the specific diet? Is there a way that you would recommend separating it better, or do you pick up dishes at the end of each meal?
For a multi-cat household, you have to go with the personality of the cat. Some cats prefer to eat by themselves away from everybody else, so you might have to be creative. Maybe one cat likes to sit up on a counter and eat, and one cat likes to be in another part of the room. Maybe there's a cat that tries to hog the other cat's food, so you have to separate those just so that everybody can have some peace and quiet and enjoy their meal instead of always looking over their shoulder like someone's going to come steal it. Cats typically don't like to eat side by side in the wild. So some cats prefer to have a little space between. My two have their own little mats that they eat on, and there's a little space between. One of them sometimes prefers to eat on the counter. So I just put her food up there. Whatever works. You have to sometimes tune into the personality of your household. What is going to work best in their case?
I know with my 3 cats, it could be a handful sometimes. So I definitely have seen that a little bit, trying to play into each one's individual personality. And that's hard when you have multiple. With doing this diet for your cats, have you seen any benefits in bowel habits or things like that?
Oh, most definitely. Most people don't realize that when you are feeding a species appropriate diet, especially a fresh raw diet, their poop is like tiny. It's minuscule because their body is able to absorb so many of the nutrients. So there's very little residue. There's very little left over to excrete out. And when you're feeding lower quality foods, it's not as bioavailable for their bodies to absorb and utilize. So you have more poop, and it tends to smell a lot worse too. So it's really, really incredible when you're cleaning litter boxes, when you transition from something not so healthy to something really healthy. A lot of times pet parents will say, you know, I'm just really concerned because she's just not pooping very much. Is he constipated or whatever? No. His body's utilizing all the food that he's eating. So there's very little left over, and it doesn't smell. They're like so impressed that, oh my gosh, it doesn't smell.
My 3 cats, they refuse to use multiple litter boxes. They only want to share one.
Oh my.
So yeah, it gets bad. That's definitely something I'm going to take away from this. When did you see a difference, or did you always feed your cats the species appropriate diet?
No, I was one of those people who grew up in a household where we fed Purina cat chow. And so that's what I did when I was in my early 20s, when I had my own cats. I fed dry food for years because that is what I learned to do. It wasn't until 10 years ago, maybe, I started to learn more about raw diets, and I started to hear more about the benefits. It took me a little while because I was penny pinching because I didn't want to spend the extra money. When I finally started making the switch, I went from dry to more canned food, which of course every cat loves. Then I took the dry away completely. Then we were on the canned food. And then I started adding a little bit of fresh raw food that was already ground up with bones, organs, and meat together. It was easy. It was really, I just mixed a little bit into their old stuff and started doing more and more of the new and less of the old. And you have to go at their pace. And then freeze-dried toppers or, stuff like that to kind of put a little topper on it to kind of entice them to go eat their food as you're transitioning. And sometimes they just like you to keep doing that. So it just depends on the cats. But I saw a difference. Well, I'll give you an example. One of my cats, Snow Bear, who was the inspiration for my company, he was diagnosed with feline bronchitis. And I remember talking with the vets, looking at the x-rays, and they were like, oh, we don't really know what causes it, but there's no cure. And I had already been learning about holistic approaches, and I sat there and I thought, oh, yes, there is. There's always a cure. You just don't know it. He had a cough. He would cough a little bit, and he had feline herpes. So he had the sneezing and the runny eyes and things like that. I took away the dry food, and I kid you not, his symptoms cleared up by 95% within a few days. And I was shocked. That convinced me 100%. I was like, okay, the dry food is no longer welcome in my house. If it can make such a difference in such a very short time, what can you say? I didn't do anything else. He was not on any medication for cough because they didn't know what to do. So we took away the dry. There's a lot of powder and there's a lot of dust. It's very inflammatory. So when you take away a potential cause, your symptoms change. That was very mind blowing for me to see that. I was very excited and very enthusiastic, and it just kind of perpetuated, okay, well, what else can we do? So that led to, let's keep working on the diet. You got to go raw. You got to go raw. And fortunately, 3 out of my 5 cats at the time were very excited about raw food. And the other 2 were a little older. They weren't as excited, but they didn't mind the freeze dried. So you just have to find what works and do the best you can with the budget that you have.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes the natural approach seems a little daunting when you just hear raw food. You're like, what does that mean? Because I don't feel as if most people know the prices for raw food. And I feel like only recently too, they started popping up more and more. When you go to Walmart, they have the little fridges now that have more raw food in them, where I don't remember seeing that growing up. I was also like you, where we got the puppy chow. Yeah, definitely. I don't think it has been as mainstream, and I'm so glad it's becoming more and more mainstream, even if it's a slow process. I'm just really glad because I definitely think there's a difference, especially with you seeing it that quickly.
It really is incredible.
To go along with your cat's poop. I always feel like that's such a funny topic.
No, I love talking about cat poop.
What litter do you see is really good for cats? What litter have you used that you really like? Is there specific styles, brands, things of the sort?
Way back when, I would buy the scented cat litter, clay litter. And then I learned that the chemicals in the clay cat litter bother cats because they have very, very sensitive noses. They're very sensitive to smell. They have like 2 million scent receptors in their nose. Even though we can't smell something, they can smell something. When I learned how toxic the chemicals were that they put in cat litter, I stopped buying the scented kind. That's one of the things that I highly recommend for people. Don't use scented cat litter. That's for us. That's not for them. It's marketed to the pet parent. Some people, their cat likes clay. I've kind of gotten away from the clay just because you don't really know how clean the clay is. There might be trace elements of heavy metals and things like that in clay. I switched them a couple years ago from a clay litter to a pellet, like a wood-based pine kind of litter. You have to do a smart transition on these kind of things because otherwise they may revolt. So mix some of the new into the old and keep replacing the stuff you scoop out with more of the new. So it's a transition. Some cats can't handle a lot of dust because of their allergies or they have respiratory issues. So you want to try to get something low dust. Because nobody wants to go into a cat room or a cat area and there's just a layer of fine dust everywhere. It's not fun. It's not fun for anybody. So I switched to OcoCat. OcoCat is a great brand. It's all natural. It's made from wood, pine. And they have different styles. Like they have large pellets. They have where it's all chopped up. And they have a real fine one. I found the fine one to be kind of dusty. You kind of have to experiment with that. And then I switched to Weruva. Weruva has a cat litter called It's a Tea Potty. They have so many great names for all of their product lines. It's awesome. Their cat litter is a smaller wood pellet, and it's made from hinoki wood, and it's sustainably grown and harvested and things like that. And it's also got green tea in it, which is a great antioxidant, and it makes it smell kind of nice, but it's all natural. So that's what we're currently using. And I've been using it for about a year, and my cats like it and I like it. And it doesn't smell.
That's awesome. I'm always looking for better alternatives. I recently switched because I was at first using a lot of the Tidy Cats kind of brands and things like that. And then the dust was becoming overwhelming. It wasn't fun to change the litter because I felt like the dust was just blowing up at you. We switched to like a corn cob based litter, and that one's been pretty cool. We want to look into the pine as well because I know I've heard so many benefits, and I've seen all over social media that that's something that's really picking up.
There's so many different types out there. You just want to try to get away from stuff that could have chemicals like corn. I don't know if it's GMO. I don't know if it's been sprayed with glyphosate. You just don't know. And they don't have to test for those things. But there's grass, there's newspaper, all different kinds. People have to experiment and just see what their cats like. And I'll tell you, if you change your cat's litter, and suddenly you realize that you're having litter box issues and they're peeing outside the box or they're pooping outside the box, go back to their previous litter because they're probably revolting. And they're trying to tell you, that's not my litter. Go get my other litter and I will poop in the right place.
Definitely have a whole personality for sure.
They're very picky. They're very clean creatures, but they're also creatures of habit.
Yeah, definitely you want to keep those routines for them. I really like that. I know since you work with Petique a bit, what were your favorite Petique products? I don't know what you've really experimented with.
When I go to Super Zoo, I love going onto your area because I can touch and feel everything. Your strollers are so darn cute. I want to start a trend. I want to get cat parents to put their cats in strollers and go outside for walks. And they're not bulky, they're not heavy, they're very mobile and you can take them places, but I felt like they were very secure and safe to put your cat in. And I think it's great to have environmental enrichment for kitties, especially if they're indoors, and just get some fresh air, go outside, but they're safe. I have a client who has bought the Snuffle Mats, and her cat loves the Snuffle Mats. It's very fun for her, stimulating their brain and their nose, hunting for treats that she hides inside the mat. So those are adorable.
My cats love the Snuffle Mat too. Honestly, my cats play with it way too much. And we have a few things that we bought from Petique, and they always love it. It's so funny. They get upset if I don't pull them out. Like we have one of the tunnels, and I had to pull it out this morning before getting to work because I saw it that was put away in the closet, and they kept getting so upset. They kept trying to pull it out themselves. And it's so funny to see how they interact with all their different toys.
As you know, being a cat mom, every cat has their own personality. So what appeals to one cat may not appeal to the other cat. So that's why we have to have so many of everything.
I feel like I have way too many toys sometimes.
I have so many toys in the living room on the floor, and then she'll go pull something out of a bag that she wants to play with for that day. It's just the cutest thing.
I've also been recently taking my cat out in the joggers we have, go through walks in the park, and everyone's so shocked that there's a cat, and I'm like, oh yeah, we should all be doing this. But yeah, my cat is obsessed with it. We have him on the leash and his harness. We'll let him get out and just get in the grass because he loves to play in the grass too.
I love that.
But yeah, everyone's just so shocked to see a cat out. People don't recognize that our strollers and joggers are really made for all kinds of pets. We have rabbits who get in them as well.
See, I mean, we need to start a trend. Everybody needs to be recording their videos with their cats and their strollers.
Could you tell us a bit about your radio show?
Yeah, so I host a monthly radio show, and I either talk about a certain topic or I have all these amazing guests that are very smart that I like to learn from. And we go over all sorts of topics about holistic health, maybe homeopathy or herbal medicine or specific health diseases, pancreatitis, treating anxiety, living in a multi-cat household. I have more than probably almost 3 years worth of shows in our archives that people can go back through and just listen to really, really great integrative vets, holistic vets, learn about modalities and tools that they can use. I've had animal communicators on and Reiki people. And I mean, it's just really, really an honor to be able to pull in such smart people who love pets and cats to share their knowledge with us and help us do better.
Where could our guests find this?
Purrrfectlyholistic.com. That's Purrrfectlyholistic.com. That is my blog site. And I do weekly emails, just general information and upcoming events and things like that. And then I also have an online store just for cats. And it's all about holistic health and supplements and natural products to promote health or to help certain conditions, as well as treats and carriers. I do have the strollers and the joggers in there that Petique has, and just all sorts of different things. Services, of course, are in there as well. And we have merchandise now too. So for all those cat people out there who want some really cute cat merchandise, my graphic designer designed them herself, and they're really cute. They're curated by us. So it's kind of fun to have something unique out there.
I've loved talking with you today. It's been so great.
Oh, I feel like I did all the talking, but thank you.
Well, no, I love learning from you. It's so awesome. You know so much. You're one of those professionals that can teach me everything.
Well, thank you so much. It's fun to be able to share what I've learn from my mistakes, my successes, and from other people that I have learned from. We're all on this journey of know better so we can do better. It takes effort to seek that information out and have a desire. It's so much fun. I love connecting with cat people and just building that sense of community as we are here to support each other and encourage each other, help each other do better and learn.
It definitely seems like you have a really great simplistic approach for really anyone to start getting into. It doesn't feel very stressful. And I feel like so often too, when looking these things up, it feels stressful. But talking to you, it honestly feels like it's like the simplest starting point. It doesn't feel like a big jump in. I know with a lot of sustainable efforts or different big cares for animals, it seems like let's go from here to here within one step. And that's not always plausible, but it definitely
Right.
talking, you definitely broke it down really well.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that because there are so many things out there. People want to start making some changes. It can feel overwhelming, and there's so much information out there. People don't know where to start. So I just tell people, don't let it overwhelm you. Focus on one thing that you can do today, whether that's picking up the all-day buffet, whether it's putting them on a meal schedule, whether it's trying one change in their diet, whether it's trying something healthy in the litter, whatever it is, focus on one thing you can do today. And don't try to do 10 things in one day. Just focus on one thing. And when you feel comfortable and you've accomplished that, then add something else that you can do. So it's a process. Learn something, try to apply it. Learn something else, try to apply it, and don't let it overwhelm you. It takes years of study and persistence of constant learning. And what can I learn? What can I apply that I'm learning? And just do it one step at a time.
Thank you so much for everything. I really appreciate everything you've shared with us today.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's an honor to be here.